There are words, and then there are words that echo in her mind for hours, for days, even when you're not around. You don't need to be the most handsome guy in the room. You don't need to have the perfect life. You just need to know what to say, and how to say it, so that your voice becomes a loop inside her head. This isn't about lines. Forget pickup lines. Forget compliments. Every guy is doing that. And the more you try to impress her with words, the more forgettable you become. But if you know how to speak to her imagination, if you know how to stimulate the emotional part of her brain, if you know how to say things that trigger a story inside her, she'll start replaying your words like her favorite song. And the craziest part? She won't even know why. Neil Strauss said, "Words are tools, but mystery, that's the bait." You don't need paragraphs. You just need the right sentence at the right moment. A sentence that cracks open her curiosity, that hits a nerve, that makes her question what she feels. Because here's the truth most men ignore. Women don't obsess over facts. They obsess over feelings. The feeling you give her when you speak, the way you pause, the way you look at her after a sentence that has a double meaning, the story she starts telling herself about who you are. And the first step is to speak in a way that makes her imagine herself in your words. You don't say, "You're beautiful." You say, "God, I'd love to know what kind of trouble you'd cause in my life." Same intention, totally different reaction. Why? Because that second sentence doesn't describe her. It pulls her into a story, a what if. It makes her wonder what kind of trouble. It makes her see herself through your lens. That's where attraction begins, not in logic, but in the emotional imagery you plant in her mind. Mystery, one of the greatest minds in the seduction community, taught that attraction is not a choice. It's a biological response to stimulation. And the way you talk to a woman either stimulates her or flatlines her interest. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're talking to a woman you've just met. Most guys go into resume mode. What do you do? Where are you from? How old are you? But the man who knows what he's doing, he says something like, "You have this look, like you're hiding a little chaos under control." Am I wrong? Now pause. Let her process that. You didn't just ask a question. You offered a mirror. You gave her something intriguing to respond to. You created tension. And more importantly, you didn't try to impress. You made her feel seen, in a way no other guy dared to. Now this is where we get psychological. There's a concept called emotional imprinting. It means that when someone feels a powerful emotion around you, you become the anchor of that emotion in their memory. Not just what you said, but how they felt when you said it. So when you say things that make her blush, pause, smirk, question herself, feel a little on edge, she links all of that intensity to you. And once that's wired in, you don't chase. She starts thinking about you when she's alone, when she hears a similar voice, when she replays the conversation in her mind before falling asleep. But you don't get to that point by being generic. You get there by being unpredictable. Let's go deeper. There's a seductive art called disqualification. It's when you say something that slightly distances yourself, but in a way that challenges her. For example, "You're cool. Too bad I only date women who can handle sarcasm." Or, "You'd be dangerous if you had better taste in wine." You're not insulting her. You're teasing her identity. You're playful. And that's key. It's emotional, not factual. It forces her to respond emotionally. And emotion is the currency of desire. Most men give women something to think about. But the man who stands out? He gives her something to feel about. Something that lives under her skin. Words that bite a little. That spark a challenge. That taste like curiosity. This is what makes her go back to your texts. This is what makes her check if you're online. This is what makes her wonder, does he like me? Why did he say that? Who the hell is this guy? That's the power of suggestion, of subtext, of daring to be emotionally intelligent and provocatively masculine at the same time. And listen carefully. When you combine that style of speech with eye contact, with grounded body language, with calm, slow delivery, you create a frame around the moment, a bubble, a private world where only you and her exist. And in that space, she feels something different, something rare, something she won't feel with anyone else that day, or maybe all week. That's when she starts thinking about you. Not because you chased her, but because you imprinted on her emotionally. And the most powerful thing you can say is often something you say with a little smile, a little pause, and a look that says, "I know exactly what I'm doing." You know what most guys get completely wrong? They talk to a woman trying to convince her to like them. But the man who truly understands seduction doesn't try to convince. He invites. He provokes. He offers her a window into something she didn't expect, and then he lets her lean in. Let me explain. There's a concept in hypnosis and sales called open loops. It's when you start something, but don't finish it right away. Like when you say, "There's something really strange about you, but I can't quite figure it out yet." You've now created an emotional gap. Her mind wants to close that gap. She becomes curious. She might even ask, "What do you mean?" Now you've got her, because she's involved. She's trying to solve a puzzle, and that puzzle is you. And guess what? People don't forget what they try to solve. You can take that further. Start a story, then stop. Say, "Remind me to tell you what I noticed about your energy when I first saw you." And then don't bring it up until later. Maybe not even in that conversation. Let the seed grow. Let her mind do the rest. That's how you become unforgettable. Now let's go even deeper into the art of emotional teasing. This isn't about being a jerk. This is about using your words to playfully challenge her. For example, if she says something typical or cliché, don't just nod. Say something like, "Wow, that was the most predictable answer ever." Are you secretly trying to bore me? But say it with a smirk. Playful, calm, not aggressive. She'll laugh, and then, without realizing it, she'll start trying to prove she's not boring. That's the psychological shift. Suddenly, she's investing. She's trying to impress you, and now the dynamic has flipped. You're no longer chasing her validation. She's trying to earn yours. That's the secret behind words that stick. You don't just say things to flatter her. You say things that subtly flip the frame, that make her work for your interest. Robert Greene, in The Art of Seduction, explains this perfectly. He says, "The key to seduction is to confuse desire with reality, to keep your target in a state of anticipation." And how do you do that with words? You use emotional ambiguity. Say things that can be interpreted in multiple ways. Things like, "You're a bit dangerous for someone like me." Now she's wondering, is that flirtation? Is that rejection? Is he intrigued? Is he pulling back? That ambiguity keeps her emotionally alert, engaged, curious, and that curiosity is what keeps her thinking about you. Here's another powerful trick: future projection. This is where you subtly insert her into an imaginary future scenario with you. You might say, "You'd be the worst person to get lost with in a foreign city. I feel like you'd argue with the GPS and still insist you're right." She laughs, of course. But deeper than that, she's now picturing herself with you in a foreign city. And once she imagines that, a part of her starts to feel like she's already experienced it. The brain doesn't fully separate imagination from reality. And if you can get her to picture you two together, even in a joke, her emotions start anchoring to you. It's the same reason dreams can affect your mood when you wake up. The mind reacts to imagination as if it's real. So why not use your words to plant those emotional images in her mind? And don't just rely on the positive. Sometimes a little playful contradiction works wonders. Say something like, "You're trouble, I already know it, and I like peace in my life. But somehow, I can't stop talking to you." Now you're creating internal conflict in you, and she's the cause of it. That hits her ego. It makes her feel powerful, but it also raises the stakes. She's no longer just chatting, she's affecting you. And that emotional impact? It sticks. Let's go even further. The power of personal discovery. When you're talking to her, look for one tiny detail, something others would overlook. It could be the way she moves her hands, the way she says a word, her choice of words, a piece of jewelry. Then say something like, "Most people probably miss this, but I noticed you always touch your necklace when you talk about something that matters to you." That's rare. That kind of observation makes her feel seen, not looked at, but really seen. And that's unforgettable, because women, especially high-value women, are constantly being looked at, but almost never understood. When you speak like that, you don't just enter her mind, you enter her world, and she won't forget that. There's a quote from the book Models by Mark Manson that fits perfectly here. If you want her to feel something real, then you have to be real too. And part of being real is speaking with presence. Don't rush. Don't filter everything you say. Don't try to be perfect. Say what you mean, but with precision, play, and a sense of self-worth. That's what makes your words land. It's not about having the perfect thing to say. It's about who is saying it and how. Now let's dive into something even more powerful. The way you tell a story can make her crave you. Not because the story is dramatic or intense, but because of how it pulls her in emotionally. This is where most men miss the mark. They talk about what happened to them, but they forget to take her there. And if she's not feeling it with you, she's just listening. But when she feels it, when she sees it through your words, you become an experience, not just a man. Here's how to do it. When you tell a story, don't rush the events. Slow down. Use sensory details. Say things like, I remember walking through the street, and the air smelled like rain on concrete. And for some reason, I just stopped. I felt like something was about to shift. You're painting pictures in her mind. You're bypassing logic and entering her emotional memory center. Even if the story is simple, it becomes hypnotic. And then, just when the story builds tension, you redirect it. Say something unexpected. Create surprise. Because surprise is a spike in attention. And emotional spikes create memory. So now she's not just listening to your story. She's absorbing your presence. She's storing you in the part of her brain reserved for moments that matter. And there's another psychological tactic that pairs perfectly with storytelling: reverse qualification. This is when, instead of trying to prove you're good enough for her, you subtly suggest that she might not be good enough for you. But you don't say it bluntly. You say it with charm, with that little glint in your eye. Example? She tells you about something she does, maybe yoga or traveling. And instead of going, wow, that's so cool, you say, that sounds suspiciously like something someone would say to seem interesting. Now pause. Let it land. She'll defend it playfully. And right there, without knowing it, she's trying to prove herself to you. That's the flip. That's when the game changes. And that's when she starts thinking about you. Because suddenly, you're the prize. But here's the master move. Right after you challenge her, give her a subtle reward. Say something like, okay, maybe you are actually a little more interesting than you look. I'll admit that. Now she's hooked. Because you're not predictable. You're not easy. You challenge, and then soften. You push, and then pull. And that push-pull dynamic? It's addictive. This isn't about games. It's about creating emotional texture. Flat emotions are forgettable. But textured experiences, the kind that make her feel off balance, curious, excited, those are unforgettable. Another strategy that takes this to the next level is strategic vulnerability. I'm not talking about dumping your insecurities or trauma. I'm talking about revealing a part of yourself that feels real, something unexpected. Maybe you say, most people think I'm always confident, but the truth is, I second-guess myself more than I should. I've just learned how to act anyway. You're not being weak. You're being human with strength. That makes her trust you more. It opens her emotional walls. And when a woman lets her guard down around you, she gets attached to that feeling. Not to your perfection, but to the way you made her feel safe and intrigued at the same time. Let's go even deeper. Let's talk about the emotional anchor effect, but now in the context of contrast. Humans remember differences, not constants. So when you're the guy who makes her laugh, then a few minutes later you go deep, then you're teasing her again. You're anchoring a range of emotional states to you. And her nervous system starts to associate excitement, laughter, reflection, tension, desire, all with your presence. That's powerful, because now she doesn't want to just hear from you. She wants to feel you again. And that's when she starts replaying the conversation. That's when she reads your texts more than once. That's when she wonders if you're thinking about her too. And one more layer. You must understand the value of conversational silence. This is advanced, but the way you pause can be more seductive than the words you say. Say something emotionally charged, then don't follow it up. Let the silence sit in the air. Let her lean into the moment, because silence after impact creates weight. Imagine saying, sometimes I wonder if people really know what they want, or if they're just scared of what they actually desire. Then stop. Look at her. Don't break the silence. Let her feel it. Most guys rush to fill every second. But the man who's comfortable with silence, he owns the room. He owns her focus. Because in that space, she's not thinking, she's feeling. And when she feels, she remembers. Let's now talk about something that very few men ever master. How to embed yourself in her emotional memory without needing to be physically present. How do you become the man she thinks about when she's driving alone, lying in bed at night, or scrolling through her phone even when she's surrounded by other people? You use psychological imprinting. This goes beyond being charming or flirtatious. It's about planting mental cues, emotional markers, that make her link specific feelings directly to you. And once you know how to do that, you don't have to be around all the time. She'll carry you in her mind space, voluntarily. Here's how you do it. You associate yourself with an emotionally heightened state. It could be laughter, curiosity, vulnerability, arousal, even suspense, but it has to be something intense. Now, here's the key. You become the source of that feeling, and then you disappear. Just long enough for her brain to associate that intensity with you. It's exactly how addictions form. The brain chases the high, not the logic. Think of it like this. You tell her a story that sparks deep emotion. Maybe it's a vivid adventure or a surreal, sensual memory. While she's fully engaged, you drop something subtle. You know, moments like this, the way we're talking now, I'm probably going to remember this exact feeling years from now. That line does three things. It locks the moment in time. It raises the emotional value of the interaction. And it makes her self-aware of how rare that feeling is. And when you later pull back, not ghost her, not disappear completely, but just go quiet for a bit, her brain replays that exact moment, that line, that feeling. She misses the experience, and missing you is thinking about you. This tactic is rooted in a phenomenon called emotional echoing. It's when the emotional intensity of an interaction leaves such a strong mark, it echoes later in solitude. Now let's level that up with symbolic anchoring. This one is savage. During your interaction, find a unique detail in your environment and link it to something emotional between you two. Maybe you're having a deep talk and a specific song is playing. You say, "Promise me one thing. If you ever hear this song again, you'll think of this exact moment right now." You've now created a mental shortcut. Every time she hears that song, boom. You're there. Not physically, but chemically in her system. That's how seduction becomes neurological. Let's explore another dimension now. Identity statements. These are bold, emotionally charged phrases that define how you see her, but in a way that challenges her current self-image. Most guys try to mirror her opinions. You do the opposite. You say things like, "You act like you're all chill and in control, but I can tell you overthink everything when you're alone." Or, "You flirt like you've done this 1,000 times, but your eyes give you away." Suddenly, she feels seen at a deeper level. You've penetrated past her social mask. And that level of perception? It makes her obsess. Because now she doesn't just feel attracted to you, she feels exposed. And exposure, when handled right, creates emotional dependence. Now she doesn't just want to talk to you, she wants to prove you right or prove you wrong. Either way, she's hooked. Another master-level tactic is the emotional loop close. This is when, at the end of the conversation, instead of wrapping it up in a typical way, you reopen something she said earlier and leave it unresolved. Example. At the start of the conversation, she tells you she hates routine. Right before leaving, you say, "Still thinking about that whole 'you hate routine' thing, but I don't buy it. There's something deeper there." Then you smile and walk away. Now her mind's spinning. You brought it full circle, but you left it open. And an open emotional loop is like an unfinished song. She needs to hear how it ends. That's how you stay in her mind for days. Want to make it even stronger? Leave her with a signature phrase, something unique, something only you say, not a cheesy nickname. A line that means something between you two, like, "I still think you're trouble, but the good kind." Or, "You should be illegal, but I'm glad you're not." The point isn't the content, it's the recognition value. Now every time she remembers that phrase or someone says something similar, it triggers a memory of you. You've branded yourself, emotionally. One final piece for this part. Never underestimate the seductive power of lingering energy. It's what happens when your presence stays with her, even after the interaction is over. And that doesn't come from just what you say. It comes from how you make her feel while saying it. You speak slow, you listen with intensity, you touch with purpose. You don't rush to fill the silence. You let her wonder. And when it's time to go, you don't explain it. You just leave with that little spark in your eye, like you know something she doesn't. That's how you become the man she can't stop thinking about. Not because you begged for attention, but because you made her feel something that doesn't go away. By now, you already see the truth most men never will. You don't need magic words. You need words that create emotion, that plant curiosity, that spark her imagination and then leave space for it to expand. Because the real seduction, it doesn't happen in the moment. It happens in the replay, when she's alone, lying in bed, smiling at a random memory of what you said, asking herself why your voice keeps echoing in her mind. And the reason is simple. You didn't try to impress her. You created experiences through words, experiences that made her feel alive, seen, challenged, desired, intrigued. Every word you spoke had weight because it came from a man who owns his presence, from a man who doesn't need to talk to be felt. But when he does talk, she listens, she feels, she remembers. This is the difference between being just another guy in her DMs and being the man who lives in her head rent-free. Now here's what I want you to do. If you felt that something in this video clicked, if a part of you recognized that this is the level of man you're becoming, then drop a comment below and tell me. What's the one thing you've said to a woman that made her remember you? Or maybe, after watching this, you realize you've been saying all the wrong things, and you want to change that starting now. Let me know that too, because this is not just content, it's a conversation. And the more men like you step into this level of power, the more we shift the dynamic. If you know a brother, a friend, a guy who needs to hear this, send him this video. Don't keep it to yourself. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because what's coming next will take your presence, your communication, and your game to an entirely new level. You already have what it takes. You just need to learn how to unlock it with words that leave a mark. So speak less. But when you speak, make sure she feels it for days. I'll see you in the next one.